Hi, and welcome to UROP's presentation on Undergraduate Research and U. I'm Jerry McMillan. I'm an advisor with the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, UROP. And for the next half hour or so, I'm going to talk to you about undergraduate research and how that relates to you and your time here at UC Irvine. So we'll talk about what research is, what you'll get out of it, what the commitment is, how to get involved, and how that whole process relates to you and your own personal journey. But let's start with some basic information. What is UROP? The Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program is here to support UCI undergraduates in all of their undergraduate research and creative activities in any discipline on campus, as long as you're working under the guidance of a UCI faculty mentor. And we are here to guide you through the entire undergraduate research process. And just as a note, we are not here to find you a research opportunities. We are not a matchmaker, but we are here to support you and to help you find the opportunities that are best for you. You take advantage of the resources we offer, including this video, and come out of it much more prepared to find your way into the undergraduate research world at UCI. And we can help you in three basic ways. First of all, we help you get involved in research. As I mentioned, we won't find you the opportunities, but between workshops, presentations, advising appointments, coming to our office, tabling, all the resources on our website, we give you the tools you need to successfully find an opportunity that's great for you. And then once you're involved in research, we have some programs to support that research. We offer programs in the fall and in the summer, and in all of those, we give you the opportunity to become a UROP Fellow. UROP Fellows have the opportunities to take advantage of more of our programs. They also give you the opportunity to present your research at the end. So while you're doing research, we support you with a variety of programs that can help you make your research more successful. And then when you're done, we give you opportunities to present your research. Every fall, we offer the Project Pitch Challenge. We give 10 to 12 students the opportunity to present their research in a 3-minute research pitch, talking about what their research is and why it's particularly compelling and exciting. And then in May, we sponsor the UCI Undergraduate Research Symposium, a week-long event of oral presentations, arts performances, poster presentations, in which we've had almost 2,000 students present their research. So as you get started in your research journey, come to these events, see what other students have been doing, watch their presentations, and then picture yourself in their shoes, presenting your research when you get to that point in your journey. So with those in mind, let's start talking about some basics. First of all, what is research? And you'll hear a lot of definitions, but we like a very simple one at UROP. Research is a 3-step process. Step 1 is to identify a challenge or to ask a question. Step 2 is to figure out how to resolve the challenge or how to answer the question. And then step 3 is to resolve the challenge or to answer the question. And it's a very simple definition, but we keep it that way on purpose. Because as I mentioned earlier, research takes place throughout the entire UCI campus. And by keeping our definition very general, it applies to you, regardless of the field in which you're doing research. And you'll recognize that physics research is very different from dance research. But if you're in either of those fields, you are involved in a project that is following these 3 steps. And with that in mind, if you're doing research, there are things you're going to get out of it. The first thing you'll get is hands-on experience. If you're involved in a research project, you are actually doing stuff. This is not just an intellectual exercise. You're doing things. You're seeing how they work. You're putting things into practice. And this hands-on experience leads to real-world applications. The projects you were involved in involve things beyond yourself. They can impact the students around you, the rest of the campus, the community, the world. Research projects that you get involved in have real implications, real impacts on the world. You also get the opportunity to collaborate with others. At the most basic level, as you get involved in a project, you'll be relating a lot with your faculty mentor. And as you go forth through your project, as you start thinking about what comes after your undergraduate research time, your faculty mentor can be a great source for guidance and also for letters of recommendation. But beyond the faculty mentor, you're going to be involved with other people doing research in your field. Other undergrads, grad students, postdocs, all people with similar interests. And by developing those relationships, you'll have teams of people that you can contact when you run into issues as you move forward in your field. You'll also develop friendships that could last the rest of your life. Getting involved in a research project also lets you apply classroom knowledge. During your time at UCI, you'll be taking dozens of classes with hopefully amazing lectures. But as you're listening to those lectures, as you're reading your textbooks, you'll have the question of, okay, I have this information. How does it actually work? By taking that information into your project, you can see how the information translates to the real-world processes. You'll understand how this works. And then with that experience, you'll be able to take that experience back to your classroom, back to your textbooks, and have a greater understanding of what you're learning. So you'll become a better student as well. You also, as you get involved in a research project, develop skills. And you'll definitely develop the skills related to your individual project, but think about all the other skills you'll develop outside of that. Skills that translate into any part of your life. Teamwork skills, public speaking skills, presentation skills. These are things that you'll use regardless of whether you continue in your research. And then there's one other thing you can get out of a research project, which is to answer this question. Is research right for you? A lot of people I've known over the years have gotten to UCI and thought, well, research sounds kind of cool, but I really don't know if it's for me. And if that's you, try it. Find out. Then you'll know. Maybe you'll get involved in a project and after a few months or a year, you say, no, that's not me. Now you know. And you've also developed all of those skills that we just mentioned. You're ahead of where you were. But I've also known a number of students over the years who aren't sure, but get involved in a research project, work on it for a while, and then say, oh, this is amazing. And discover a passion for research that leads to careers that they never dreamed they would have approached. So if you're curious about research, give it a shot. See what it feels like. And with that in mind, let's talk a little bit more specifics. As you get involved in undergraduate research or a creative activity at UCI, there are two different possibilities. First of all, you can get involved in a project on campus. And by on campus, I mean working with a UCI faculty mentor, even if it's not necessarily on the main UCI campus. You could be doing a research project over in the Med Center. You could also be doing a project that involves field work away from campus. But as long as you're working with a faculty mentor, this is what we're talking about for on-campus research. The other option is off-campus. And in terms of what's possible there, it's endless. A lot of other universities offer summer programs, fall programs that give you intensive research experience. You can do internships with companies. You can find faculty mentors at other universities. Off-campus research project possibilities are vast. But because they're so vast, we can't really discuss them here. So here I'm going to be discussing specifically working on campus. Again, the Med Center, the main campus, working with UCI faculty mentors. And as we approach that, there are two different models you can look at. The first model is to work in a lab. You have a professor who has a lab. The lab has a team, all working together on different aspects of solving one major question. The other option is for you to come up with a project on your own and find a faculty member to support you through that project. Both models exist at UCI, and both have advantages and disadvantages. To look at them, if you're working in a faculty lab, you're part of a larger project. You're part of a team. That means you have other people working with you. You may have your own level of independence, but you're reporting as part of the group solving that one large question that's the focus of the lab. You'll be directly supervised by a faculty mentor or maybe a grad student or a postdoc. Again, the focus for you is to contribute to the broader research picture. What's the goal of the lab? What's your part in contributing to that? And because you're working as part of a team, you're always going to be working with other people. You'll have individual responsibilities. And the longer you're working in a lab, the more independence you can get. But in terms of autonomy, you are always going to be reporting to somebody else. Your part of the project is going to be based on how it relates to the project being done by the lab under the guidance of the faculty mentor. By contrast, if you're doing an independent project, the research you do is yours. You come up with a research question with help from a faculty mentor. You design the project. The steps you follow, the pacing, that's yours. You have faculty guidance, but you're in charge of the pacing. You're in charge of where things are going. The focus is the question you come up with. What do you want to answer? What do you want to resolve? And the autonomy is definitely in your court. But it's important to remember that regardless of which of these models you're following, these are not completely separate. If you're working in a lab, you will have autonomy. If you're doing an independent project, you have faculty guidance, you have somebody to help you. You are not doing it alone. So these are broad picture definitions, but there's a big blurry area down the middle where both of these apply. And something that's true for any research project you get involved with at UCI, these models are going to be different depending on your faculty mentor. Every faculty mentor is different, and therefore how they structure working with you is going to be different for every one of them. But just as a very broad picture, think of these two models as driving a car. If you're in a lab, the faculty's driving. You're in the passenger seat. Independent project, you're driving. They're there to advise you. And again, it's always different for every faculty member. So with that in mind, let's start looking at a few specifics. First of all, what's the commitment of getting involved in a research project? As you might suspect, it's not something to take lightly. You can count on 10 to 12 hours a week during the school year. Maybe 10 to 30 hours a week during the summer, or even more. When you don't have classes, you can focus on it in much more depth. Most faculty also want a commitment of at least one school year. So the first thing to think about is, as you look at this commitment, do you have the time to get involved? And then you start wondering, can you do more or less? And the answer is yes. Every faculty member, as I said, is different. Some may not require 10 to 12 hours during a week during the school year. I've known some students who spend 6 hours in the lab, but the only way to know is to ask the faculty. In terms of doing less than one school year, most faculty do want that level of commitment. But as long as you're loving it, as long as they like you, there's almost always the opportunity to do more. So these are guidelines. They're intended to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. But again, it varies by faculty member. As you start working with faculty, as you start talking to them about working with them, that's when you're going to find out what the specific commitment is going to be. And with that in mind, let's look at this question. When is the right time to get started in research? And unfortunately, there's only one real answer to that question, and it is woefully unsatisfying. But the best time to get involved in research is whenever you are ready. And the only person that can know when you are ready is you. But think about some things. Ask yourself these questions. Do you have time in your schedule? We talked about the commitment. Do you have that amount of time to commit to something outside of your classes and excel at both? Do you want to take a little bit of time to clarify your goals, to clarify your plans? If so, maybe you want to take a little bit of time before getting involved in a project. On the other hand, the earlier you get started, the more time you can spend. So think about how much time you want to spend in research. Maybe that argues towards starting earlier. But always keep in mind how long you have until you graduate. And don't forget that commitment most faculty want of a minimum of one school year. So ask yourself these questions. Think about when the time is right to start. And that's the right time for you. But also think about things. There may be academic requirements that affect your research journey. Those are important to know, and those are very much outside the purview of what UROP does. So as you start thinking about getting involved in research, talk to an academic counselor in your department, in your school. They can have suggestions that might impact what you're doing, that might come into play as you go through this decision process. But with all of this in mind, now we're ready to start some details. How do you get involved in research? And getting involved in research is a three-step process. Step one is to find a research topic. Step two is to find faculty mentors. And step three is to contact them and convince them they want to work with you. In a little more detail, step 1, find a research topic. And at this point, you may already have a great idea for a research project, and if so, that's fantastic. But if you don't, ask yourself some questions. First of all, if you've chosen a major, think about why. Part of the reason we choose a major is because there are questions we want to have answered during our undergraduate journey. What are those questions? Maybe one of those could be a research project. Think about things that you want to know more about. Think about classes you've taken. Maybe a professor has said something that makes you go, whoa, that's amazing. But then they say, well, we don't have time for that in this class. Let's move on to the next topic. But you're thinking, I want to know more about that. Maybe that's a research topic. And as you're thinking about this, if you're still having trouble thinking of ideas that really inspire you, there's what I call the brute force method. Think about the department in which you want to do research. Go to their website, click faculty. You'll get a column of smiling faces. Click all of them. On every one of those links, you will see something that says research interests : stuff. What's the stuff? As you go through them, you'll find a number of them that make you think, yeah, it's okay, but not great. But every now and then, you'll find something that gets you excited. When you do, write down that topic. Write down the faculty that are doing that research. And then keep going. Go through all of them. Because at this point, you're not looking for a perfect fit. You're looking to inspire your own curiosity. Maybe you find more than one. Maybe you find some that combine in ways that you'd never thought of before. But go through them. See what's there. See what's being done. And imagine how you could fit into those topics. Find something that interests you enough that you can picture spending all of those hours working on it. One of the things about research a lot of people don't talk about is an inevitable part of the research process is going to be failure. And because of that, it's critical that you find a topic that interests you enough that when things get a little awkward, rather than being depressed and discouraged, you're excited by the opportunity to figure out what happened and how to do it better. Find a topic that interests you. And as you start developing topics, use the resources at the UCI libraries. If you find something that interests you, read a little bit more about it. If that gets you excited, now you're on the right track. But also remember, as you are looking through topics, as you're considering what to do, there is absolutely no requirement that you do research in your major. If you're a dance major and want to do chemistry research, do chemistry research. You are now a dancer who understands chemistry. You are different than other people. You could also find things that connect. I've known a number of students who major in one area, do research in another, and their ultimate goal is to find ways to combine those. So don't consider yourself limited by your major as you start looking at research opportunities. Step 1, find a topic. Find a topic that excites you. And then move on to step 2. Step 2 is to find potential faculty mentors. And there are 2 great places to start. The first is the obvious one. If you've developed a relationship with a faculty member, that's a great place to start. You already know them. They already know you. As a side note, as a student at UCI, whenever you're taking a class with a professor, go to their office hours, get to know them, ask them questions about their research. They will like that. They like talking about their research. And as you get to know them, you will become a person, not just that face sitting up way near the back of the class. That way, if you ever get to a point where you want to ask them for a favor, they'll be much more interested in providing that. Get to know your faculty. And if there's a faculty member you know who's doing research that excites you, that's a great place to start. On the other hand, there's absolutely no requirement that you do research with faculty you already know. If you're interested in a topic, you don't know any faculty doing it, use the UCI faculty profile system, faculty.uci.edu. There's a search box on that page. Type in the terms that interest you. You'll get a list of all the faculty whose research profiles include those terms. As a note, there are two significant flaws with this system that I think it's important for you to recognize. First of all, a lot of the faculty research profiles don't have a lot of information on them. Second, every profile at the bottom left has something that says last updated : I recently saw a 2008. A lot of these profiles are out of date. A lot of them don't have much information, but it's a great place to start looking for names. This resource is the only place that links to the research profile of every faculty member on campus that has its own search engine. So it's a place to start. Find the names of people whose research interests match your own. And then start researching them. If the profile doesn't have much information, go to the department website. Click the link there. Maybe there's more information. Look for their lab websites. Most of them will have something. And those are the ones they're going to update far more often and far more completely than the stuff for the campus or the department. As you start going through your list of faculty, start writing down the ones that interest you. We have a file that links out of the guide for this workshop. The file, there's an Excel file you can use to organize your search. Keep track of the faculty you search. Follow them through this process. Keep your list organized. Don't lose track of people. But as you start finding faculty that interest you, research them. And it's critical to do this for two reasons. First of all, the more you know about a faculty member and about their research, the more confident you are going to be that they're a good fit for your research interests. The other reason is you are going to need to build a case as to why they want to work with you. And the more you can demonstrate that you've put in the work, that you've thought about this, you've considered this, the easier it's going to be to make that case. So research the faculty. Look up their publications on Google Scholar. Read some of them. Go through their lab websites. See what their research is really about. And as you're going through this process, use the UCI library resources. If you can't find a publication, talk to a librarian. They can help you with that process. Research the faculty. Read some of what they're written. And as a note, you may find that sometimes as you're reading one of their publications, you don't understand it. And that's fine. They're writing for other experts in the field, and you're not there yet. But you can also use this as a measure. If you're reading something and you say, well, I don't get this and I don't care, that's probably a good indication this is not a good faculty member for you. If, on the other hand, you find yourself saying, I don't get this, and I can't wait to find out, now you're on the right track. Find the faculty that interest you. Research them. Develop a list. Our usual recommendation is at least 3 to 5 faculty, but the most important thing is more than one. Have backups. Get your list. And as you're getting into this process, in the fall we are going to start offering Finding Faculty Mentor workshops. And these will give you the opportunity to work through the process of finding faculty. It'll introduce you to resources and tools you can use as part of that search. They'll provide in-person support. You'll be working on this in the presence of other students and at least one UROP staff member. And as a result of coming to this workshop, you'll develop more confidence in your ability to carry out this process successfully. So step 1 is figure out the topic that interests you. Step 2, find faculty who interest you. And then step 3, apply for opportunities. And there are 2 general ways of doing this. The first is, if you, as you're researching the professors, you find something on their lab's website that says, if you want to do undergraduate research with me, do this. If you see something like that, do that. They want to know you can follow directions. If they have a process, follow it. If they don't have something, we recommend you send them an email. We have a template on our website. We have a video that talks about how to construct this email. But basically, as you're emailing faculty, keep in mind what the purpose of this email is. A lot of students get into this process and think that the purpose of the email is to get a research opportunity with the faculty member, and that is not the case. The purpose of this email is to start to build a relationship with the faculty member. And more specifically, the single purpose of the email is to get a response. It's to get the opportunity to continue the conversation. So as you're writing this email, think about that purpose and read through it paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence, word by word, and ask yourself, does this element get me closer to achieving that purpose? And if the answer is no, consider how to say things better, more succinctly, more directly, more clearly. We recommend a 3-paragraph format. First paragraph is about you. Why do you want to do research? What sort of research do you want to do? What sort of background do you have, if any, that's relevant to that research? And for me, the most important thing, why does this matter to you? How will getting involved in a research project like this get you closer to realizing whatever academic, career, personal goals you might have? Or to put it another way, why should they care? Why should they keep reading? Why is your interest in this sufficiently compelling that they'll want to continue? That's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 then is about them. Why did you choose them as a good fit for your research interests? This is where you mention the reading you've done. Mention the publications you've read. Use specific examples of what excited you and how those examples tie back to the why this is important to you from paragraph 1. Why are they a good fit for you? And then the 3rd paragraph, ask for an appointment. Ask for the opportunity to talk to them about this further. So keep in mind, the goal of this process is just to get a response. It's to get the opportunity to sit down and talk to them. Be persistent. Send the email out. If you don't hear back after a week or two, send another one. Don't use these words, but basically say, Professor, I sent you an email, haven't heard back. I want to let you know I'm still very interested, and I wanted to make sure you saw it. And then add one more thing, just to keep them interested. If you don't get a response after that one, send another one. I've talked to one faculty member who said they do not answer emails of this type until they get the third one. Patience and persistence are important here. After a while, start thinking about moving on to other faculty on your list. There is unfortunately a fine line between being assertive and becoming an annoying pest. You do not want to cross this line. So 2 or 3 follow-ups, absolutely appropriate. But if you start getting into that and you don't hear back, that's why you have the other faculty on your list. Contact them all. Get a response. Get a meeting with the faculty. Treat it like a job interview, because in many ways it is. Prepare for the interview. You've already done a lot of research about them and what they do. Do more. Go in with specific questions to ask. As you're talking with them, interact with them. Remember, they're looking for somebody they want to work with. They don't want somebody who's just going to sit there and go, yeah, okay. Be part of the process. Be excited. You chose them because you're excited about them and their topic. Let that come through. And remember, every faculty member is different. Things that come up with one faculty member in an interview may not come up at all with another one. Go in with a clear picture of what you want to find out. Ask those questions, but also be very clear to ask, how does their specific research guidance work? What's the relationship going to be like? How will working with them look? At the end of that, hopefully you get an offer. You get a research position. If not, again, you have all of those other faculty on your list. One important thing to know, I talked to one student a couple of years ago. She got in with the faculty member she contacted 13th on her list. This can be a slow process. It can be a long process. But the important thing to remember is she found somebody. And if you are patient and persistent, you can too. And at this moment, I want to address one other thing very quickly. As you start thinking about getting involved in faculty or getting involved in research with faculty, you may have a little voice in the back of your head that has doubts. You start wondering, I want to do research, but I don't have any experience. I'm just an undergrad. I haven't written any papers. I haven't taken many classes. I don't even have a Nobel Prize yet. Why would they want to work with me? And as you hear that voice, I want you to keep 2 things in mind. First of all, over the years, we have sent questionnaires to a number of faculty members, and one of the questions we always ask is, what do you look for in a potential undergraduate researcher? And most students I've talked to expect the answer to that question to be either background or GPA, and almost none of the faculty mention either of those. Instead, almost everyone mentioned at least one of 3 terms: passion, curiosity, and motivation. Or to put it really simply, they want to work with the people who really want to work with them. Which, going back, is why it's so important to find a topic that gets you excited enough that you can be that person. The other thing to remember is that, and we forget this, but professors are people. And they're people who are genuinely excited about their research and about what they do. And as a person yourself, think about this. Maybe there's something that really excites you. You spend a lot of time thinking about it. You know a lot about it. Somebody comes to you and wants to talk to you about it. That gets you excited. Same thing with faculty. So is it appropriate to get nervous about contacting faculty? Absolutely. They're faculty. But should you do it anyway? Yep. Get past the doubts. Contact them. Get that opportunity. And be confident in your own ability to succeed. I had one student some years ago who was really excited about getting research, but she said, but research, that's for the smart people. Remember this. UCI is a very selective university. By getting into UCI, you are by definition one of the smart people. So you can succeed at this. And as you move forward, we have another opportunity to help you with this. We'll have workshops called Applying to Research Opportunities. And this workshop will go through this process in more details. How do you get through this process of applying? It'll give you a space to draft emails and provide in-person support as you're doing it. A UROP staff member, maybe some of our student staff, can be there to help you review what you're writing while you're doing it. And as part of this process, you'll develop more confidence in your ability to succeed. So that's the process for getting involved in research. Figure out what you want to do. Figure out who you want to do it with. And then convince them that life without you was not worth living. But those 3 steps are only a part of your research journey. If you go to our website, we've developed a research roadmap that outlines a very common process for research for an undergrad at UCI. And while your journey is not going to follow this exactly, by working with this roadmap, by clicking on the steps on the website, you can see how this process works and how it can apply to you. You find a topic, you find mentors, you apply to the opportunities, you connect with us for more help. Once you start doing research, you can apply to us to become a UROP fellow. You conduct the research, you finish the research, you present the research. And at that point, you can do anything with it. You may have opportunities to publish. You may have opportunities to present at off-campus symposia. The roadmap is incredible. All of the steps lead to a great future for you. Familiarize yourself with the steps. See how they apply. And remember, by watching this video, you've already moved on to the next step. Where you go from here, that's up to you. With all of that, thank you for watching this video. I wish you great success in your research journey. And just want to close with the reminder, our purpose at UROP is to support your undergraduate research journey however we best can. We are a resource on campus. Use us. We can be an important step in helping you succeed. And as you start thinking about the research journey, never lose track of the fact that you can do this.